One of our youth group students was battling cancer. So when we took him on a trip to a theme park, the management provided her with a wheelchair to ride in and then gave her, along with 3 others of her choosing, the opportunity to skip the line of all the rides for the day.
Wow.
So when our other students saw these privileges given to her by the park, I never in my wildest dreams would have guessed what would happen next. When we all met back together for lunch, I saw 8 of my students rolling up in wheelchairs.
Yo.
No.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Youth Group Chronicles. Joining me tonight, Pastor Cole Clark and Mindy Spencer. Welcome to the studio, you two. Good to have you here. So if this is your first time listening to the show, this is where we bring some guests onto the show to blind react to crazy youth ministry stories. So we'll kick that off with a story from Jesse. Jesse said, one of our youth group students was battling cancer. So when we took him on a trip to a theme park, the management provided her with a wheelchair to ride in and then gave her, along with 3 others of her choosing, the opportunity to skip the line of all the rides for the day.
Wow.
So when our other students saw these privileges given to her by the park, I never in my wildest dreams would have guessed what would happen next. When we all met back together for lunch, I saw 8 of my students rolling up in wheelchairs.
Yo.
No.
Apparently, these students had worked the system so they could get front of the line passes
No.
too. In a complete rage, I began yelling at these students for having the audacity to do such a thing. And I told them that wheelchairs exist for people who actually need them. So the kids were basically in tears while a couple other ones rolled off in embarrassment. But what I failed to realize was what this looked through the eyes of everyone else attending the park. To them, I was just some dude yelling at kids in wheelchairs at a theme park, telling them how disappointed I was at them and that we would never be coming back.
Yes, dude.
You can't blame them for being resourceful. That's all I got to say. You cannot blame them for being resourceful.
Just
I want to know how the
though.
park believed it.
So disappointed in you.
They probably have like a policy these days. Like, hey, if they
You
say they're
can't ask.
disabled, you just believe them.
Yeah.
You just
have
believe
to.
them. Don't say
Out
anything.
here rolling around, popping
Yeah.
wheelies and stuff, getting to the front of the line.
You've inspired me. Now I'm going to be using the electric carts every time.
Every time.
That I
Front
go
of
to
the line
Target
passes.
or Walmart.
I'll trade a trick for the front of the line.
And if they question me, I'll be like, are you going to question a disabled person?
It's true.
But okay, 8 kids come rolling up. What are you going to do? You're working at the park. I would be saying that.
I
I
just
wonder
feel
if
like
they were like going fast or slow.
Dude, you know,
You know?
youth group kids
Just
were
like,
just being like reckless in the wheelchairs.
won't that like get you on less rides?
Probably.
They just stood up and hopped
I
on
don't
those
know,
rides.
actually.
I don't know how that works. I'm not disabled, but
You could probably go up to a roller coaster and then they could help you in.
So they would
Damn.
have
If I'm
really
going to
they
theme
must
park, I'm
have
getting
had
roller
to, they had
coasters.
to sell it.
the whole
Yeah.
time. They
Like
had to
they're there
really
like
sell it.
they're there like they get to the line, they're like
Uppy.
they're like, this is great. I don't even have to get into the roller
Oh,
coaster.
dude, I actually saw a video today of, I feel like it's been out for a while, but there was a guy that had just gotten off of trial. He was leaving court in a wheelchair. And I don't know the backstory, but I think he
So-
faked that he couldn't
He
walk.
ran.
No.
Yeah, and he jumped out of the wheelchair and bolted
booked
away
it.
from the cops.
Took off.
Yeah.
Dang.
So,
Yep. And there's just 20 minutes of the cop who's clearly a little overweight running. He's that way. The dude had a neck brace on and everything.
he did actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
ripped it
sold it,
off.
bro. I don't know what they were thinking with that one, or why he wasn't handcuffed to the chair, but hey, lesson learned.
Dang.
Welcome to our Instagram live audience, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Good to have you here. If you have some stories you want to send into the show, stories@ygcpodcast.com is where you can submit those. This is a story from Chris. Chris said, on a youth group mission trip to Puerto Rico, we had over 20 people staying in a 4 to 5 bedroom, 2-story house. So it was pretty cramped. One morning, while I was in the bathroom getting ready to shower, I started hearing something like a train approaching, a very far away train out in the distance. Seconds later, water began to shoot out from underneath the toilet at tremendous pressure, almost like a pipe had burst. I freaked out and jumped into the shower stall so I wouldn't get wet. At this point, I was yelling for help, but of course the door to the bathroom was locked, so no one could get in. As I was standing in the shower, I began to hear a gurgling sound coming from the shower drain pipe. As I stood up on the lip of the shower, what came next is etched into my psyche forever.
No.
I kid you not, an explosion of the most vile, disgusting excrement began to shoot up from the
Extra
shower
No,
drain
dude.
like a fountain of poop. I was able to escape the bathroom just in time before the water, sludge, and poop and everything else spilled out into the hallway of this house. At this point, everyone was awake and freaking out, so we all ran outside as this mudslide made it through the entire
Not the mudslide.
downstairs of this house.
Ew, dude.
Come to find out, the sewer system in the town was not built for toilet paper or 20 plus dudes using the facilities in a single family home. So after a few days, the entire system failed and flooded this entire house.
That is
What was
disgusting.
what town are they in that 20 people backs the city
where?
system?
Somewhere
Puerto
in Puerto
Rico?
Rico.
Oh,
Dang.
Yeah.
this just made sense. Well,
You gotta,
Explains a lot.
you gotta put toilet
I don't even know what
paper
to say anymore.
in the garbage cans.
I don't want to offend an entire
Yeah.
nation.
It's our nation, bro.
Yeah, technically,
is.
it's a U.S.
Come on.
One of
territory.
us.
We need more funding, Biden, towards Puerto
Oh.
Rico's sewage.
So
Sewage system.
lesson learned there.
But
Yeah,
it
not
makes
much to
sense.
say.
Whoever
except
wrote
is-
that was like, they definitely write.
No,
at
they're
some
scarred.
capacity in their in.
They
for
are
their
scarred now.
He said etched into my psyche.
This is a story from Vibe. They said, at a youth conference, I was sitting innocently in the crowd until I heard the title from the guest speaker of his message.
Oh gosh.
It was called The Secret of the Ooze.
No. Come on.
living. These days, I'm honestly not surprised.
Come on.
He
He
then
said it was
proceeded.
Hey yo,
What'd you say?
It was bussin'.
He then proceeded to tell thousands of kids to ooze at every moment.
No.
In our sleep,
Come
at our
on.
jobs, and everywhere possible. The best part was when he told us to turn to our neighbors and say,
No.
I'm going to ooze on you.
He must have been homeschooled.
That would be a great guess. It would be a fantastic guess.
uncontrollable oozing.
Oh, I got a good one. Turn to your neighbor.
Nah, bro.
Pastor better not try that on Sunday. That's all I have to say.
I want to be.
He would.
I want to be.
He
too
would be the
shocked.
one to
He
do
would.
that.
He'd say it.
It
over
wouldn't
and
be
over
too
again.
crazy.
What, that?
To see it happen.
Oh,
Like, it wouldn't
for-
be shocking.
It would not be surprising.
Probably in like the 1950s. This isn't about Pastor. Forgive me. Probably in the 1950s. You know that was the lingo. Oozing.
Oh, ooze? My guess is that you are supposed to rub off on people.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
guess I get
Pause.
what he's saying, but
Yes. Okay. That's probably just as bad.
Yeah, that was terrible. My guess is oozing
I
means you
just-
rub off on people. This is
Oh,
Youth Group
man.
Chronicles After
Someone
Dark.
said that's one way to
After
love your
dark.
neighbor. Yep.
yeah.
Youth Group Chronicles rated R.
We do have a few of those. This is from Hunter. Hunter said, at youth camp, we were having a late night glow in the dark dance party in the worship center. As 200 plus
Naturally.
students were all in the room jumping and dancing, my youth pastor came in and told us to all immediately leave and go back to our rooms. Confused, we all complied and made our way out. Come to find out, we were literally in the process of causing the building to collapse. Sure enough, the next morning, we could see these massive cracks in the ceiling where the wall and ceiling had started to separate because of our dance party upstairs.
What
This
are
is
you
the
doing
product.
up there?
This is the product of somebody saying we don't have the money to build the church with contractors.
Right?
So
I
if
think
you
it was
could
a
lend
camp.
a hand.
It was a youth
Hey,
camp.
Yep. Yep.
camp,
If you
which
could lend a
also
hand
checks
to our
out.
organization,
Bring your dad and your grandpa.
a bunch of uncoded work.
We're gonna build this. Yeah.
So actually, I could see
Nah,
that at the
some
camp
duct
I grew
tape.
up at. I mean, it was a barn was renovated into a dining hall. I mean, it looked fine, but I could see, like, I was thinking about that. Get 250 kids in one level jumping up and down. I
Yeah,
don't
just
know.
duct tape
Probably
it,
wouldn't
man.
hold up.
Just a few screws here, little duct
I don't
tape.
think that building had screws. I think it was like the pegs through the beams. That's how old this barn was.
Wow.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yikes.
And it's still standing to this day. So
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe
If you
They
put
didn't-
vinyl
they didn't
flooring in
have-
anything, it looks great.
Seriously.
This is from Silas. Silas said, at a youth retreat, myself and another student got selected to drink a blended Happy Meal on stage in front of everyone.
Oh,
We were both handed cups and started chugging, but I immediately vomited back into my cup.
oh.
However, I was determined to finish it.
No.
I only got about 25%
no.
of the way through when I crouched down and completely emptied my stomach again into
No.
this cup.
And then drank it again.
The other kid somehow managed to finish his and was awarded the points for winning. However, the guy running the competition
No.
said that if my youth pastor finished the drink for me, then my team would also be awarded points. So without hesitation, my unknowing youth pastor jumped onto the stage and to my horror proceeded to chug this due to the loud music and lights, not knowing what I had just done in the cup. So to this day, I still have not told him what he drank.
He deserves
Well, you
to
did
know.
just now. Send him this.
That's
He
true.
deserves
It
to
is a
know.
first name.
Surprise.
This guy's going to be thinking, man, there's a Silas in my youth group.
Hey, I had a Silas
remember
in my
that.
youth group.
I would have felt like a sinner.
I would have felt
Not
terrible.
saying anything. Like just letting it slide, man.
Did you go back to youth group? Like I would have disappeared. I would have moved out of state.
I wouldn't want a chance of him finding out. I'd be gone.
This gives me like,
Hey,
this
anybody
scares
know what
me.
happened to Silas?
Who's done what
haven't
to
seen
my
him
drink
since that
that I
night.
didn't know
That's
about?
actually a great question. What has been going on that we don't know about? How many games have you played like this where you took over for a kid? Any?
I never have.
I'm just thinking in my head right now, like, has there been a moment where I was susceptible? I do know
Listen,
this. When I was young, I had me and my brother were on a long road trip, and I had a cup of Mountain Dew, and I really had to pee. And my parents were like, yo,
No.
just pee in the cup. And I peed in the cup.
Mhm.
My brother started eating hot chips later, and he took the cup, and my man drank the Mountain Dew, and he was like, why does it taste like this? And I was like, dang, bro.
Did you tell him?
Yeah, how do you not? Because like I'm like, this is like, first I felt a little sad, but then it was kind of funny. You know what I mean?
What is it? Man versus Wild says all pee is sterile.
It's sterile.
So
Yeah.
he's fine.
Yeah.
Right, him and his camera crew. Bear Grylls.
Yo, didn't you say you had a story that you've been telling me?
Yeah. I had I was driving one day in the car, and this kid had been coming to youth group, and he has autism, and he was in the car. And so sometimes there's some moments where he doesn't really know like what's going on. And he was excited, and he's like, man, I barely like made it out of the house today. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, you know, my parents, they told me before I left, don't drink the Kool-Aid. And I looked at him and I thought, Mom, why would we drink Kool-Aid at youth group? And the kid had no idea, but he's like sitting to me, telling me that his parents are silly because they thought we were going to drink Kool-Aid. And I couldn't even
He's
explain
literally
to
telling
him.
on him.
Yeah, literally. And I couldn't even explain to him what was going on because he was just oblivious to the situation. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Parents actually
To be
secretly
fair,
don't
though.
like the youth group, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
as you have found out. apparently.
I've come to the awareness of the
Don't
fact
drink the
that we are
Kool-Aid.
seen as a cult. That is not
That
new
is
news
nothing
to
new.
me.
That's
Not new
old
news.
news.
Not new news. Maybe
No.
from that family, new
Yeah.
news. But I feel like anybody in ministry has probably gotten that word thrown at them.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right,
If
guys.
you're
Well, I
not
don't
called a
know,
cult,
like-
are you doing it right?
Honestly, I'm telling you.
Great
own it.
question. That's fair.
I say we own it.
What'd you say?
Say we own it.
Yeah, true. I kind of do at this point. I'm just
Come
like, yeah,
join the worst cult.
come find out.
Mess around and find out.
This is from Brian. Brian said, our youth group helped build a deaf interpretation ministry at our church.
Perfect.
I can't be a part of these.
Perfect. What are we doing? Are we running out of things to do?
After months of hard work, we finally got it up and running.
Don't air this. Don't air this. The whole deaf community just got mad at me. They just can't hear me. So it's okay.
The weekend we launched the deaf ministry
They don't even
just
know
so
what
happened to be the first week of December. We realized pretty quickly that we should have coordinated with the worship ministry because the first song they played that Sunday was Do You Hear What I Hear?
Perfect.
Come
Perfect.
on.
They were believing in faith that the whole crowd would get healed in one moment.
Seriously.
Can you hear what I hear?
I can't. I just have
Do you hear what I hear?
I'm just thinking like you were the one that headed this whole thing up and you're so excited for the new ministry. My heart would sink right there.
That's like looking at a crowd full of people in wheelchairs and being like, now stand to your feet and give the Lord a great hand clap.
High five.
Did someone actually do that?
No, not that I know.
I would imagine
Maybe
that
in faith.
as happy.
I
or
believe
happy.
that's probably been
Oh, I mean, there's
said
all
in
kinds of
faith.
stories like that. Who was like, wasn't it like the Special Olympics where the guy was putting the gold, he was
yes.
crowning him with the gold, or not crowning him, but he was
Yeah.
giving him the, what is it?
The medals.
gold
the
medal.
medal. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And he like went to give him a high five, but the guy didn't
no
have
hands.
arms.
Yeah,
I have
that's
seen that
crazy.
happen a
And
few
he's
times.
And then he tried doing something else, but like a guy couldn't do it. So everything he just said, he just was like,
He said,
I can't do it.
Give him a kiss. He got lips, so.
Give him a little peck on the nose.
Right. Well, I give up.
This is a story from Scott. Scott said, while our youth pastor was giving a message on addiction, he proceeded to tell us that he enjoyed huffing gasoline.
Wow.
He went on to explain how many times he huffs gasoline and what triggers him to do it. He then proceeded to pull a rag soaked in gasoline out and huffed it in front of everyone in the room. We all thought he was joking until we started to smell a hint of gasoline in the auditorium. He was later fired for refusing to go to rehab.
This story can't be real.
Have you ever heard of that before?
I know people have like huffed airline gas and like all different types of gas.
It's real, dude. It jacks you
This
up.
man is like mad, like psychologically he's been destroyed.
Yeah. So I heard there was a guy I knew growing up that worked at the camp we lived at. And he said that he knew someone like this where he started huffing gasoline, got addicted to it. And I guess I don't know if it makes you high, but he got in a car wreck and the cops got to the scene, found him curled up in the backseat of his car huffing gas. So it's legit. It makes you whack.
Yo.
Yeah.
I don't even
But this
know.
is the second time I've ever heard of it. I've never heard of it before that. So
Man, he's like confessions from the pulpit. I'm
it
struggling.
was a cry for
family.
help.
Confessions right here, guys. Like,
I'm struggling
what?
for help.
That would be
Dang.
a very odd service to be in.
What would
They all
you
thought he
just
was
think?
joking.
Like,
I would have
what
thought he
would
was
you
joking
do?
too.
I thought it was an
Funny.
example. Like I'm waiting for
Yeah.
the punchline.
Yeah.
Nope.
And then 3 weeks later, you find out he's fired.
Get him off the stage. Get him off the stage. It's real gasoline.
Okay, Jessica said that she's heard of that before. What do you mean huffing gasoline? You breathe it in, I would imagine.
I literally knew somebody who said there used to be like the big vats that they held the airline gas in, and they would like dampen a cloth, and they would put their head like over the hole and like cover the cloth over their head so nothing could escape, and they would just sit there
Just breathe it.
breathing the airline gas.
I feel like that's got to
It's
kill you.
just-
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that
Probably
point, you
pretty
just
fast.
want to die.
You
Like
hate your life.
Yeah, people are saying they've definitely heard that before. Someone from Scotland says they want a shout out. Okay, shout out from the United States.
for $5.99.99,
Yeah.
you can get a shout out on
Yep.
Youth Group Chronicles.
Youth Group Chronicles Venmo
We'll
is where you
use
can
your
send that.
first and last name, and if you'd like, we'll even put your address.
If you guys have stories, guys, a reminder, if you are just tuning in for the first time and you would like to submit a story to the show, stories@ygcpodcast.com is where you can send in. Bradley, welcome, bro. Love you, man. My cousin Bradley's on. This is from Matt. Matt said, when our youth group was returning home from a mission trip in Ireland, we found out that our flight was delayed until the next morning. So on a whim, we had to find a place to stay the night. We found a really nice big lodge with a sign out front that said rooms available on the front lawn. So we pulled in and the youth pastor went inside to get us some rooms. Unfortunately, these rooms didn't have bathrooms, but there was like a locker room that we could all use on each floor if we needed it. Shortly after lights out, we could literally hear people having sex through the walls on both sides of our room. And when we woke up the next morning to go shower in the locker rooms, we saw both naked men and women casually walking around out of their rooms like it was normal. The youth pastor panicked and quickly told us and all the chaperones to get everyone in the vans and head out. We ended up brushing it off as something that's more common in maybe certain European areas. And it wasn't until a few weeks later that someone informed us that we had literally stayed at a brothel.
No, man. Yeah, I mean,
I feel like there's signs
accidentally-
that have to show you, like,
We're gonna stay at the Playboy Mansion this Thursday.
just close your eyes, kids.
yeah, it was
What?
not a
What do you
hotel,
even
guys.
explain with the noises? It's ghosts? Like,
No, all the kids knew.
They
Unfortunately,
knew.
they said they were all like
They're
older
not dumb.
teens.
They knew what was happening.
demons.
They actually knew.
It's the demons.
They knew it was a brothel. Those
The
kids,
kids,
knew.
like,
they're
our
like,
youth
those
pastor
kids
don't
brought us
tell
to a
anything.
brothel.
Let's see how far we can.
They're like, what kind of hotel is this? They looked it up. They're like, don't tell them. Just don't tell them. Don't tell them what it is. Yeah, we're excited.
Oh, man.
Yeah, someone asked, how did they not see children walking in? Great question. I
No,
think,
honestly.
yeah, I think they were teenagers, so like 16
I'm
and
sorry.
up, I
Who
believe. But
qualifies
still,
some
that
of these
is
people.
young. I guess they really just did not care. Is this the brothel that was announced from season 1? I don't think so. I think that one was in the States. This was in Europe. This was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, people
Europe,
actually are like,
that.
yo, you guys got to feature
The
some.
nudist colony.
Yep.
Mhm.
People were like, you guys got to feature some international stories. I'm like, actually, we've been doing international stories for a while, but we just haven't always said like the location. So now you guys get to hear one that's not here in the States.
Oh, that makes me not want to travel internationally.
Sure,
Yeah,
stay
you
at
get.
this
I
nice
mean,
hotel.
you get there. You've never been to the country before, and you
Yeah.
see that. You're like, oh, I guess this is normal.
I don't know. All I got to say is if you listen to this podcast, I want to encourage you. It sounds like you should just never go to youth group.
Yeah, but you should.
But you
Not.
should.
Yeah.
At first, I thought when I was first the first few seasons when I listened to the story, I'm like, I'm discovering a pattern, no lock-ins.
Oh, I
And then just every time that I hear a story, it's like more
Yeah.
and more. I'm like, no, just
More.
don't have service. Like nothing could go right if you base it off according to this.
If there's no youth group, you're safe.
Don't have transportation to the service. Don't have games at the service. Nobody touches a microphone, including the youth pastor.
Right.
No worship.
Yeah.
No altar calls. Someone freaking
Silence.
got slapped in the butt last time
What was that
during
one?
the prayer. The lady was like trying to lay hands on his back, and she went to
Oh.
hit him with the power and just slapped his
No.
booty. Don't travel. No missions. Don't leave the country.
Yeah, just you know what?
Sewage, brothels.
This is from Victoria. Victoria said, our youth leader taught a lesson on how Jesus sees us all as equal. He pointed out that any ladder we see in this world is a result of human folly and doesn't actually come from God. So to prove this point, he told us all to go outside and divide up, with girls on one side and boys on the other. Then he told us students to put ourselves in the order of the most attractive to the least attractive person.
What?
So
Smart guy
imagine a scene of 30 teenagers having to physically compare themselves to each other and rank where they all stood in a literal
Dang.
self-imposed ladder.
Dang.
That's
Dang.
brutal. Almost immediately, the girls burst into tears
Yeah.
as they tried to be objective in their ranking system. One girl tried to head to the front of the line, and another said, oh,
No.
okay. If you think you're that high, that's fine.
That's crazy.
Oh my.
The girls had a hard
gosh.
time deciding who would actually be the last one at the end of the line. So two best friends asked if they could stand there together. The youth pastor said this would
We're
defeat
ugly
the
together.
purpose of really visualizing the metaphorical ladder and reminded us we subconsciously do this every day. He went on to imply that we already knew who should be last. Literally half the group was sobbing by the time that we returned to wrap up the lesson.
You know how many phone calls he probably got?
He said our youth pastor clapped his hands and reminded us with a smile that Jesus doesn't care what we look like and we're all equal in his eyes.
That's one way to get your point across. You're ugly.
You're all ugly.
But God loves you and he thinks you're beautiful. We all knew you were the ugliest, but God doesn't care. Remember that, Susie.
They said the dudes were just like,
Why?
all right,
'Cause
who
you
has,
ugly.
who has the biggest muscles and who's the tallest? The girls were bawling.
I don't know. I feel like we could. I don't know. I feel like we
No.
could have thought this out a little bit more.
And that was the first
yeah.
and last day of his job.
And yeah, but he didn't like pull any punches either. He just kept going. He's like, no, we really want you to do
He
this.
must have been.
We
old.
all knew who was last. He had it
Down,
out.
we all know.
He actually wanted to get fired. That was his exit strategy. He was like, 5 years of these kids putting me through
Can't
hell.
wait to put Sally on the last row.
He's like, Susie, we knew you were going to be last.
Come on, Mitchell. Get down there.
We knew. He was like triggered. The boys weren't like more mad.
Mission failed successfully. I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. Probably
Turned
not.
into like therapy.
No,
Yeah,
Therapy
someone
session
said this. Some kids are definitely still in therapy for that one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, I went to church to be loved. And
got
they told
told
me
I
I
was
was
They
ugly.
sent me to the back of the line. This is an anonymous story here. They said, our youth group leader told us a story of a time that he was on a mission trip to North Macedonia. Him and a few others on the trip decided to hike up a mountain for fun. On the way back down, the path was winding back and forth, so he decided to cut straight down through the forest, leaving everyone else behind. But on his way down, somehow he ended up getting lost in the forest until he found a fence. This fence said that it was electrified, but he was able to climb over it because it wasn't switched on, thankfully. Moments later, our youth leader was surrounded by armed men and held at gunpoint. Come to find out,
Gosh.
he had accidentally ended up climbing into the president of Macedonia's backyard garden.
What?
At the time, there was also a bunch of civil unrest, so he was immediately locked up. And the people that were with us had to go explain that he was not trying to assassinate the president. He was eventually let go.
It's like a movie.
But on his way out of the country in the airport, he said he still noticed the people that had captured him were following him and spying on him until he left.
We're just going to act like he didn't just touch an electrified fence to see if it worked.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though,
that's what I was
You
wondering.
care that much about your president? Why isn't the fence on?
Actually, true.
He should have played it off and rolled up in there. I am an
Have you ever tried
inspector.
to touch an electric? You can like touch grass to it. You can like kind of feel
Someone's
it.
getting fired.
Yeah.
How'd you get over it? It just didn't work.
Not even this. What was it? Just cattle? Like, just cattle?
That's a great
electric fence,
question.
which
Why
is
wasn't
like,
it on?
You could tell
I mean,
that
your
this
president
wasn't.
doesn't have heavy duty electric
You know what? I was
fencing
wondering.
that's
I
on?
bet it was like, because they said it was up in the mountains. I bet it was like a getaway or something.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't even there, but they still have security, all those things. But this guy probably was just panicked in a foreign country in the middle of the woods, lost.
Yeah.
I would have climbed the fence.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, people are on the other side. Okay.
But also, why would you go off by yourself in a foreign
Yeah,
country?
that's
In North
that's fair.
Macedonia. Didn't
Why-
even know that was a thing.
Do you know
till
where that
today.
is? I had to look it up today.
No.
It's right above Greece.
Well, I can tell they're North Macedonia. Their electric fence don't work. In
Civil
America,
unrest, they turned off the electric
In America, it'd be 16 feet tall.
There would have been fireworks
and
going on.
really hot.
Yeah.
All right, one more story. This is from Raymond. Raymond said, at summer camp, a group of our high school boys went to the beach during free time. One of these boys was more prone to sunburns than most people, so he asked one of his fellow high school buddies to apply sunscreen to his back, which was a big mistake. After spending hours in the sun, he and his friends were walking around campus shirtless
Oh, gosh.
and passing by whoever was in their path. Plenty of people noticed what was going on, but no one told the student how his friends had betrayed him. Come to find out, this kid's friend had sprayed male genitals on his back.
I knew it.
So this art piece was permanently burned into his skin for all to see as he walked around camp that day, totally oblivious.
How do you not feel your friend drawing balls
Just
on
like,
the back?
like legit.
Like,
you know?
Terry, I asked you to rub it in. I didn't ask you to do doodle art on my back.
Why do I feel your fingers just,
Well, he's sus for that. I think he wanted it.
Maybe. I don't know.
You wouldn't think you wouldn't be like, what are you doing? Like you've only applied sunscreen to a specific area of my
I mean,
back.
okay, I'm thinking the spray, I probably wouldn't have thought twice.
Like a graffiti artist.
Yeah, he's like, just
back
sprayed his
there,
back.
just like, let me shade this in.
And then I probably would not have noticed. So no one spray my back with sunscreen, please. Don't try. If anyone, I would be the one not
It's
to
good
notice.
information
Unfortunately,
to know, though.
yeah. Always have someone
On
you
both
trust.
sides.
Yes, on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good info to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Youth Group Chronicles Instagram Live. Thank you for joining us. If you have stories that you want to send into the show, stories@ygcpodcast.com is where you can submit them. And then on our website, you can find our TikTok, Instagram, everything there. It's ygcpodcast.com. You can book us for shows. You can submit stories, whatever it is. You can find it right on our website. So Mindy and Pastor Cole, thank you guys for being here. And to you listening to the show, we will see you next week.